I learned about teaching overseas through research. For me, first overseas was just going to like America, the UK, Canada. So I had various family members who did go overseas to teach. With the advent of the World Wide Web, where it got more, I'm not sure the word to say, but more persons were doing more, are posting more about their lives, I realized that Jamaicans could actually go teach not just in these countries, but in certain other countries like the UAE. There are Jamaicans in China. So I started doing my research. At first, I was just interested in going to Japan. I did Japanese in college for a semester, so I was interested in doing the JET program, which is the Japanese exchange teaching program. I didn't get through with that, so I decided to go teach in America for 3 years so that I could get the American teaching certificate. And now I'm in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which I partially got that job through teaching in America and getting that teaching license. So it really started for me through research and through knowing persons who did it before I did. My job search process was to apply any and everywhere, sign up for every single recruiting agency that I possibly could, especially the ones that were free. There were some paid ones. I only did two paid ones, which is TIE Online and ISS, which is International School Services. But I did all the other free ones, Teacher Horizons, um, Teach. I want to say Search, but it's not Search Associate. It's something have to do with Search, but I don't remember the name of it. So that was my process. Apply every and anywhere once it was in my subject area, once I believed that I could do the job. So that was it. And once an interview opportunity came up, I took it. Even if I knew I possibly would not take the job, I still did it just to get the experience of what it is to interview for international positions. I decided not to necessarily work for an English school or anything having to do with English because, as a trained teacher, I'm not trained to teach English, even though it's as simple as getting a TEFL course. I didn't want to have to go back to school to look for jobs internationally. I wanted to stick with what I was trained to do and what I love to do. Yes, it would have been simple because it's for some it's like a 1 month course or a 3 month course or a as fast as you can course, but that wasn't my love. My love is not teaching English. My love is teaching music. So I decided to look internationally for my subject area instead of looking for English jobs, which of course would have been easier to get, but that's not what I was interested in doing. I joined many different teacher Facebook groups, so I'd see what persons say is a good contract versus a bad contract. But most importantly, because it's not as simple as saying, oh, this person said they got this and this is good, because it depends on the country and it depends on the school. So another thing that I did was I found somebody who worked at the schools that I was thinking of applying for and asking them, what does it normally look like, so that if I were to be offered an opportunity for to sign a contract, I know exactly what to look for. So I kind of used other person's experience working there to figure out what it should look like. I would say the red flags are there. Again, I looked on the Facebook teacher groups to know what general red flags were, because, of course, I was only used to moving into not necessarily positions, but into programs that I knew other persons were a part of before. So it wasn't so easy. So I knew exactly what to expect, and therefore that those certain things that I thought were red flags were not necessarily red flags. But I guess some red flags to look for would be, for one, if they are willing to offer you a contract without interviewing you, or the interview seems to just be a question and answer, more like, hey, what do you do? Can you teach this? And if, to me, if the interview lasts like 5 minutes, and at the end of 5 minutes they tell you that you got the job, for me that would be a huge red flag, because what can you possibly find out about somebody in 5 minutes to fill your vacancy that's dealing with people's children? My culture shock, I'd say, is not that severe, because I do try to do as much research as possible to know what the norms and values of the society are, I guess. And for me, as I always say, once I have the internet and I have certain foods to eat, I'm good. But I guess, like for me now in Africa, a culture shock experience. I don't know if I'd call it a culture shock, but I would say my expectations. I expected where I am to have more fruit options, which they don't. And of course, as I said, I need food and internet. So there's a problem with food. So it's shocking that the foods that I expected to find aren't here. Another part of that culture shock, but as I said, I researched so I knew this, was the fact that they don't speak English here. And I guess something shocking, I don't know if it's a culture shock, is that no matter if I tell a person that I don't understand, they don't even slow down. They just keep repeating over and over, like repeating over and over the same thing will make me understand. So, not using signals or anything, just repeating the same thing over and over. So I guess that was a bit shocking for me. Like, I don't understand. Okay, so let's figure out a way to get you to understand. Maybe use signals, maybe point to things, maybe show you things, not just repeating over and over the same thing. One thing that I found here that I did not experience in the American educational system is how welcoming kids are of international teachers. And when maybe welcoming is not the word, but let me explain. When I was in America for the first, I guess, month, it was like, oh my gosh, she's speaking Spanish. I don't understand what she's saying. What is she saying? Where are you from? But coming here, because it's an international, so everybody is, well, not everybody. A lot of the students who come here are not from the country. So when I came here, it was just like, oh, you're from Jamaica. Okay, next. It wasn't a big deal. And that was surprising for me, but I like that. I didn't feel like an outsider. The kids are, I guess, very proud of their internationalness. I would say hate. I would say, and I wouldn't even say dislike. All right. So something that I like about international teaching is getting to immerse myself in the culture. So it's not just visiting us a country and staying for 2 weeks, then going home. It's actually living here, experiencing life here, kinda knowing what it feels like for the local folk to a certain extent, because of course being an expat and not speaking the languages, that I kind of move around in sort of a bubble where everybody kind of speaks English. And sorry, most persons here don't really speak English. They speak either French or Lingala. So I love being able to immerse myself. I love being able to travel cheaper, not cheaply, because it's still expensive to travel from here. But if I were to travel from Jamaica to come to another African country, it would have been a lot more expensive than me traveling from here to go to certain one of those countries. and not even the cost but the distance, because flying for 24-48 hours, that's not fun. Something that I dislike, I wouldn't say it's something that I dislike about international teaching. I guess I'd say I dislike about not being able to communicate with everybody. But it's not necessarily international teaching, because I guess I could have found some place that they speak more English. But or one thing that I'd say I dislike is the distance from family, and the cost again comes in to fly back home, and the distance to fly back home is not as simple as saying, oh, Christmas is coming, the flights are 500 and under, so okay, I can go home for Christmas. No, flights are more expensive than that, so it's missing out on my nieces and nephews growing up, missing out on, well, let's not use the word missing out, not being there, because with the advent of WhatsApp video, it has really helped a lot. I get to see what's happening. It's like I'm there, but the food again comes in. I'm not able to eat the food. Yes, yes, I'm not able to get my regular food and fruits that I'm used to. That's another thing that I dislike. Yes, it comes back to food. In terms of resources, as I said, the Facebook teacher groups are were pointed me in the right direction. I recently, not recently, but one of the recent ones is Teachers on the Move. I use Brothers and Sisters Teaching in International Schools. Brothers and Sisters, if you just look up Brothers, as in not ERS but AS, Brothers and Sisters Teaching, no, living, not teaching, living in, for example, Mexico City, living in UAE. I use those sites, not sites, those groups as resources. I also scoured the internet looking for various people's experience. Of course, I know that their experience would necessarily be my experience, especially since I'm Jamaican and most persons were from like US, UK, New Zealand, Australia, where it's easier for them to get a lot of things done because of their passport. But those were my main resources. The Facebook groups where I could actually ask questions and get answers, and possibly a lot of times see persons that teach at the schools that I'm applying to.